You think you know Siberia? Colossal, frozen, and almost unbelievable, Siberia is not what you think. This place stretches from the Ural Mountains all the way to the Pacific Ocean, covering more land than Europe and the United States combined. For most people, Siberia means endless snow and bone-chilling cold, but its story is far more dramatic. Here, cities rise on permafrost so thick the ground stays frozen for thousands of years. Rivers as long as legends carve through the taiga. And Lake Baikal holds more fresh water than almost anywhere on Earth. In this video, we'll uncover Siberia's extremes, its secrets, and the wild beauty that defies imagination. Hidden in the Altai Mountains is a lake so deep, it drops 325 meters straight down, deeper than many skyscrapers are tall. Lake Teletskoye holds enough fresh water to help feed one of Siberia's greatest rivers, the Oby. The lake stretches almost 80 kilometers long, but stays only about 5 kilometers wide, making it look like a long silver ribbon between the mountains. Its water is so clear that on a quiet day, people can see down more than 10 meters below the surface. Around the lake stand mountain ridges that reach up to 2,400 meters, creating strong winds and fast-changing weather. About 70 rivers and many seasonal streams flow into the lake, and more than half of that water comes from the Chulyshman River. All of this water exits through just one outlet, the Chuya River, which later joins another river to form the mighty Ob. The entire lake sits inside the Altaisky Nature Reserve, a protected area known for its old taiga forests and clean, untouched environment. Before we continue, here's a quick question for you. How many time zones does Siberia span? Comment your answer below. Few people know this, but Lake Baikal is so deep that if you drained it, you could fit the entire country of Belgium inside and still have room to spare. This ancient lake sits in the heart of southern Siberia, surrounded by tall mountains and quiet forests. It stretches for more than 600 kilometers, almost like a long, shining river carved into the land. Scientists say Baikal is the oldest lake on Earth, with a history reaching back 25 to 30 million years. Over that time, the Earth's crust slowly pulled apart, creating a giant rift that filled with pure, cold water. Today, that rift is still active, widening by about 4 millimeters every year. Because of its incredible depth, Baikal holds nearly 1/5 of all the unfrozen freshwater on the planet. Its water is so clear that on a calm day, you can look straight down and see the rocks lying far below. More than 3,000 species of plants and animals live here, many found nowhere else in the world. Even the famous Baikal seal, one of the only freshwater seals on Earth, calls this place home. The lake is fed by over 300 rivers, each one carrying cold, clean water from the Siberian wilderness. And in 1996, UNESCO recognized Baikal as a World Heritage Site, protecting this natural treasure for future generations. More than 100,000 years ago, a chain of massive eruptions carved deep valleys and raised towering peaks. And that ancient force created what we now call Kamchatka, the true land of fire and ice. Kamchatka stretches about 1,250 kilometers into the Pacific Ocean. It covers nearly 270,000 square kilometers, making it one of the largest and wildest regions in the Russian Far East. Across this huge land, scientists have counted around 160 volcanoes. 29 of them are still active, which is why Kamchatka is the most volcanic area on the entire Eurasian continent. Because of cold winds from Siberia and the icy Oyashio current, snow covers the peninsula from October all the way to May. Even with all that snow, volcanic activity kept shaping the land, cutting deep valleys and building wide mountain slopes over thousands of years. 19 of Kamchatka's active volcanoes are so important that UNESCO placed them on the World Heritage List. Before 1990, the peninsula was closed to tourists, and even Russian citizens needed special permission to enter. Today, Kamchatka is open to visitors from around the world, who come to see its powerful volcanoes, frozen landscapes, and rare natural beauty. If you're watching this, please click the subscribe button in the corner of the screen. It's completely free, but it means a lot to us. From above, Lake Bursol looks like someone spilled pink paint across the Siberian steppe. But the truth is simple. The color comes from tiny organisms living in its salty water. It's a natural sight most people never expect to find this far north. In summer, the lake's edges turn snow white with salt, making the whole place shine like a frozen field under the sun. The water is so full of minerals that you don't even need to swim. You float the moment you step in. But walking into the lake isn't easy because the bottom is covered with salt crystals sharp enough to cut, so shoes are a must. The shore is lined with plants that can survive extreme salt levels, giving the landscape a quiet, almost strange beauty. And what surprises visitors even more is the narrow railway, built right on top of the salt-covered lake bed during Soviet times. Trains still move along these rails today, carrying salt across a surface that looks like an endless pink desert. This railway has become one of Bursol's most iconic sites, drawing photographers from across the region. Locals say Lake Lama can make wishes come true, but always in its own mysterious way. Lake Lama is located on the Putorana Plateau in northern Russia, about 140 kilometers east of the city of Norilsk. It is one of the largest freshwater lakes in the region, stretching up to 80 kilometers long and up to 8 kilometers wide. The lake is very deep, with its waters reaching between 300 and 600 meters in some areas. Its name, Lama, comes from a Tungusic word meaning big water or sea, which reflects this lake's vast size. Russian scientist Nikolai Urvantsev and his colleague Bazanov first surveyed the lake in 1921 during an expedition to this remote region. The lake is surrounded by the untouched wilderness of the Putorana Plateau, with mountains rising sharply along its shores. Rivers flowing into and out of the lake support a rich population of fish, making it an important resource for locals. The area around Lake Lama is full of wild plants, including raspberries, red currants, and rowan trees. Even though it is remote, the lake serves as a local getaway for residents of Norilsk, who travel about 4 hours by boat to reach it. The lake is also the starting point for explorers and travellers aiming to venture deeper into the wild Putorana Plateau. Thousands of years ago, powerful eruptions carved deep scars across Kamchatka, creating a landscape that looks almost otherworldly. One of those scars became Mutnovsky, a volcano built from 4 giant cones fused together like a mountain stitched by fire. Today, it's one of the most active places on the peninsula, where steam can shoot a kilometre into the sky. What surprises many people is that these 4 cones are so large, each one stretches nearly 2 kilometres across. And right in the northwestern cone, the volcano seems most alive, releasing steam and gas with temperatures that can reach 500 degrees Celsius. This heat creates one of the largest geothermal fields in the world, strong enough to power homes through a nearby energy plant. A river called Vulkanaya runs through the crater, but its waters tell a darker story. The sulfuric acid inside makes it impossible for anything to live. As the river cuts the volcanic rock, it forms a steep canyon named Opasny, meaning dangerous, where colourful layers of ancient eruptions appear like pages of Earth's history. Even though the air can feel heavy with gas, the view of boiling pools, bright mineral colours and towering walls of rock makes Mutnovsky one of the most unforgettable places in Kamchatka. Hidden deep in northern Siberia, people call it one of the most untouched places on Earth, the Putorana Plateau, where fortress-like mountains rise above rivers that have never felt a human touch. The plateau is mostly made of basalt, formed millions of years ago during massive volcanic eruptions called the Siberian Traps. Its mountains rise over 5,500 feet, creating steep cliffs and flat plateaus that stretch for miles. Rivers like the ones flowing into Lake Lama cut through the jagged rocks, forming deep valleys and waterfalls along the way. The region lies above the Arctic Circle, so winters are extremely cold, with temperatures often dropping between minus 32 degrees Celsius and minus 40 degrees Celsius. Summers are very short and cool, usually around 8 degrees Celsius, and sometimes reaching 16 degrees Celsius at the warmest. The Putorana Nature Reserve was created to protect the largest herds of wild reindeer in the world, as well as snow sheep that live on the tundra. In 2010, UNESCO recognized the plateau as a World Heritage Site for its untouched subarctic and Arctic ecosystems, including forests, tundra, and cold water lakes. Despite the plateau's natural beauty and huge nickel deposits, very few people live or travel here, making it one of the most remote places on Earth. The largest city in Asian Russia is younger than many modern countries. Novosibirsk was founded only in 1893, yet it grew so fast that today it stands as the biggest urban centre in all of Siberia. It began at the exact spot where engineers decided the Trans-Siberian Railway had to cross the Ob River. To support the new Novosibirsk rail bridge, workers and families settled along the riverbank, turning the area into a small but growing town. During the Russian Civil War, the city was heavily damaged, but it rebuilt quickly as the Soviet government expanded industry in Siberia. In 1926, the city received the name Novosibirsk, which means New Siberian City. When World War II began, many factories from Western Russia were moved here for safety, bringing thousands of workers and speeding up the city's growth. By the mid-20th century, Novosibirsk had become a major centre for transport, manufacturing and science in southwestern Siberia. Has this destination just made its way onto your travel list? Drop a 1 if you've been, or a 2 if it's now on your must-see list. Hidden just outside Krasnoyarsk, massive rock formations rise like giant monuments, defying everything you thought you knew about Siberia. These cliffs, known as the Stolby, are made of syenite rock and have been shaped by millions of years of wind, rain, and ice. The park covers 47,219 hectares. Every year, more than 200,000 hikers and climbers visit, exploring trails that lead to both popular spots and remote, protected areas. The Stolby were first studied by explorers in the early 1700s. In the 1800s, gold miners came here, and the area was named Royev Rushi, after the mining activities along its streams. In 1925, the park was officially protected to preserve its striking rock formations. And today it remains a national park where nature and history meet. Forget everything you thought about Siberia. Beyond the frozen tundra lies Ergaki, a landscape of fiery flowers, jagged peaks, and crystal clear lakes, a paradise most travellers never see. Ergaki Nature Park was created in 2005 to protect this part of the western Sayan Mountains. The park covers more than 217,000 hectares, which is about 540,000 acres of mountains, forests, and rivers. Millions of years ago, magma rose beneath the mountains but never reached the surface, cooling slowly to form the granite peaks you see today. Over time, glaciers and wind shape these rocks into sharp ridges and steep cliffs that make Ergaki so dramatic and unique. The park is home to over 1,500 species of plants, including rare flowers, mosses, and lichens. In summer, the alpine meadows are covered with Siberian globe flowers, creating bright yellow carpets across the plains. Hiking trails run for 35 kilometres through lakes, rivers, waterfalls, and canyons, letting visitors explore the park in 3 to 5 days. About a quarter of Ergaki is off-limits to protect wildlife and delicate ecosystems, keeping parts of the park completely untouched. Imagine a place where snow-capped peaks, crystal lakes, and golden rivers stretch as far as the eye can see. Welcome to the Altai Mountains, the ultimate escape for the soul. These mountains sit where Russia, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, and China meet, creating a vast region full of rivers and valleys. The highest peak, Beluka, rises 4,506 metres above sea level and is covered in snow from top to bottom all year round. Two major rivers, the Irtysh and the Ob, begin here and flow for thousands of kilometres across Siberia. The Altai Mountains gradually merge with the Sayan Mountains in the northeast and slope down toward the Gobi Desert in the southeast. The area is home to different peoples including Altais, Tuvans, Kazakhs, and Russians, many of whom live as semi-nomadic herders. They raise horses, sheep, and cattle, hunt, and grow crops, all while living close to nature and the wildlife around them. Animals like snow leopards, golden eagles, Siberian ibex, and Argalai sheep roam freely across the mountains and forests. The mountains have been called Russian Tibet and Siberian Switzerland because of their dramatic peaks, valleys, and clear rivers. Tourists visit to hike, raft, fish, or simply explore the landscape, following paths that have existed for centuries. We pull info from all sorts of places, If you spot something off or have more to share, drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Could anyone really survive at minus 59 degrees Celsius? In Yakutia, Russia, they do. Clothes freeze in seconds, food hardens outdoors instantly, and yet life goes on as normal. Yakutsk, the capital, sits in a region where winter temperatures often drop below minus 35 degrees Celsius, making daily life extremely challenging. Oymyakon, one of its villages, holds the record for the coldest inhabited place on Earth at minus 71.2 degrees Celsius. Even with such freezing conditions, people cook outdoors and carry on their daily routines without stopping. Yakutia covers over 3,083,523 square kilometres, making it the largest federal subject in Russia. Despite the harsh winters, summers can reach around 30 degrees Celsius, showing how extreme the seasonal changes can be. The region is home to about 1 million people, including the Saka, Evenks and Yukagirs who have lived here for centuries. These communities rely on traditional practices like reindeer herding and hunting to survive in this environment. Rivers and lakes freeze for much of the year, and snow can cover the land for 9 to 10 months. Life in Yakutia is a mix of incredible resilience and adaptation, shaped by one of the most extreme climates on Earth. Over a century ago, no one even knew this lake existed hidden behind bogs and thick forest. Its thermal springs create tiny blue circles on the lake floor, constantly moving like a living painting. Welcome to Kyzyl Lake, one of Altai's most mysterious treasures. Despite its name, there are no geysers here, just underground springs that push up clay and silt in perfect, ever-changing patterns. The water is so clear that even the deepest parts, over 6 feet down, look like shallow puddles, reflecting turquoise and azure shades that glow in the sunlight. Some scientists believe the lake was formed after the 2003 Chuya earthquake, when shifts in the land allowed these springs to bubble to the surface. Surrounding the lake, fallen trees and moss create a fairy tale forest, making it feel like a secret world hidden from the rest of the planet. Today, a wooden walkway leads visitors safely through the swampy approach, giving travellers a chance to witness this living masterpiece up close. Ogoy Island is so small and remote that it was once a natural reserve only scientists and anglers visited. Today, it stores ancient Buddhist manuscripts and relics from dozens of countries. The island is only 2.9 kilometres long and 0.6 kilometres wide, with most of its land covered by grasses and low shrubs. Birds like larks and herring gulls use the island as a nesting ground, filling the air with their calls during the breeding season. At the highest point, a Buddhist stupa of enlightenment was built in 2005, dedicated to Dakini Truma Nagmo. Inside the stupa are 750 kilograms of sacred Buddhist texts in Tibetan and Sanskrit, along with relics from 40 Buddhist saints and sacred items collected from places around the world. The Chulyshman River flows for 241 kilometers through the Altai Mountains, starting near Lake Julungkul on the border with Tuva. Its waters travel through a narrow valley where cliffs rise up to 800 meters, creating walls that block the wind. This isolation allowed unique plants and animals to grow here, found nowhere else in the world. The river finally empties into Lake Teletskoye, one of the largest and clearest lakes in the Altai region. Only a small 30-kilometer section near the Katu-Yaryk Pass has paths and basic facilities for visitors. Beyond that, the valley remains untouched, with no campsites or human development along the lower river. Because of its remote beauty and rare ecosystems, the Chulyshman Valley is protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. If you want to see a city that mixes history, culture and nature, Irkutsk is one of the few places like it. The city lies on the Angara River and has been a center of learning, art and trade for hundreds of years. Irkutsk was founded in 1661 and quickly became an important hub, connecting Siberia with the rest of Russia and Mongolia. In the 19th century, many Russian intellectuals and nobles were sent here as exiles after the Decembrist revolt of 1825. These exiles built schools, libraries and cultural centres, helping Irkutsk become a unique place of knowledge and creativity. The city's historic wooden houses and Baroque-style buildings still stand today, showing the mix of Russian tradition and European influence. From above, the Kurai Steppe looks like an alien world, waves of sand frozen in time, stretching 20 kilometres long, carved 15,000 years ago by one of the strongest floods in history. The steppe sits high in the Altai Mountains, about 1,500 to 1,600 metres above sea level, surrounded by ridges that rise up to 4,000 metres. To the northeast, the Kurai Ridge forms a jagged wall of rock, while the North Chuya Ridge to the southwest blocks the horizon with even taller peaks. Because of these high mountains, the steppe is almost enclosed. The climate here is harsh, summer is short, frost can appear any day, and the temperature swings sharply between day and night. Rainfall is very low, and the soil is mostly stones with strong water drainage and salt. So only hardy plants like caragana, saxifrage and wormwood can survive. Animals such as wolves, steppe foxes, hares, gophers and pikas live here, adapting to the tough conditions. Opened in 2014, the Bugrinsky Bridge isn't just a crossing. It's a marvel of modern engineering that stunned the world with its design. The bridge stretches 2,091 metres across the Ob River, making it one of the longest in the region. Its bright red arch rises 70 metres above the river, giving it a shape that is instantly recognisable from far away. The central span alone is 380 metres long, allowing ships to pass safely underneath without blocking traffic. It carries 6 lanes of cars, helping people travel quickly between the banks of Novosibirsk for work, school and daily life. The bridge was recognised in 2016 with the FIDIC Award of Merit for its innovation, quality and sustainable design. People in Novosibirsk now use the bridge not only to cross the river, but also to admire its striking architecture from every angle. So don't go anywhere yet, because this bridge is only the beginning of Siberia's most unexpected stories. Sheregesh lies at the foot of Mountain Zelyonaya, where the snow can reach 4 meters deep. Winters in this region are extremely cold and snowy, while summers are short and warm. The town started as a mining settlement after the Sheregeshevi brothers discovered iron ore in 1912. In the early 2000s, Sheregesh began developing into a ski resort, attracting visitors from across Russia. By 2018, the resort operated 19 ski lifts, all running from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Since 2015, a single lift pass allows access to all the lifts, making it easier to explore the mountain. Snowboarders and skiers prize Sheregesh for its dry, fast powder, which is considered the best in Russia. The resort is remote, so visitors often have to travel 8 hours from Moscow and face the harsh Siberian frost to reach it. The Siberian Taiga is one of the largest forests on Earth, covering huge areas across northern Russia. This vast forest is mostly made of evergreen trees like pine, spruce, and larch that stay green all year long. The taiga is very cold, with long winters and only short, cool summers before the cold returns. Because the ground stays frozen under the surface for most of the year, it's hard for many plants to grow deep roots. Even so, many animals have learned to live here, like bears, wolves, elk, and foxes, that survive the tough winters. Smaller animals such as squirrels, hares, and many kinds of birds also make their home in the taiga's dense trees. In summer, the forest floor fills with mosses, lichens, and sometimes berries that feed both animals and people. The taiga's thick forests help store carbon and also make oxygen, which is important for our whole planet. Visiting the Siberian taiga feels like stepping into a huge, peaceful world of green trees and endless natural beauty. For more than 70 years, the Sayan Mountains were completely closed off by the Soviet Union. No traveller, no outsider, and no camera could enter this protected area. Because of that long isolation, the landscape here stayed almost unchanged for decades. The Sayan Mountains sit in southern Siberia and stretch across parts of Russia and northern Mongolia. The western Sayan is known for its rough, jagged ridges, while the eastern Sayan has rounder and smoother summits. Because the region was closed for so long, its nature, wildlife, and remote valleys remain some of the most untouched in Siberia. Few people know the size of Olkhon Island. It's the third largest lake island on the entire planet, bigger than many cities, stretching 71 kilometres end to end. And it rises steeply 818 metres above Baikal's surface, like a giant stone lifted straight out of the water. The island lies inside Lake Baikal, the deepest freshwater lake in the world. Its long shape was formed by tectonic movement, where the ground slowly cracked and pushed upward over millions of years. The island has two very different sides: smooth green steppes facing the coast and small pine forests facing the middle of the lake, even though parts of it are covered with trees. Olkhon stays very dry because it gets only about 240 millimetres of rain each year. Across the island, many archaeological sites show that the Buryat and Yakut peoples lived here, long before Russian explorers arrived in the 1600s. People think ancient civilizations began only in warm places like Egypt or Persia. But Caucasia was already inhabited 15,000 to 20,000 years ago, putting Siberia on the same timeline as the world's earliest cultures. Archaeologists found one of the oldest Stone Age sites here, dating back 30,000 to 35,000 years. As time passed, the Tagar culture grew in this region and became part of the larger Scythian and Siberian world. Then in 201 BC, the Huns arrived and formed what is known as the ancient Caucasian state. Later, this land came under the rule of the Turkic Khaganate and the Uyghur, adding even more layers of history. Because of this deep past, Many people believe the modern Kharkars still carry the physical traits of the ancient Huns. Today, Khakassia is known as the Mecca of Siberian archaeology, filled with burial mounds, stone statues, petroglyphs, and old settlements that remain visible across the land. High in the Altai Mountains, glaciers slowly carved a valley over thousands of years. When the ice finally melted, Lake Kucherla was left behind, calm, deep, and intensely blue. At about 1,790 meters above sea level, the lake is surrounded by alpine meadows and dark green forests. Its turquoise water is fed by glacial streams, giving the lake a color that feels almost unreal. Stretching nearly 5 kilometers long and reaching a depth of almost 55 meters, the lake feels vast and still at the same time. Today, Lake Kucherla remains part of the protected Golden Mountains of Altai, a UNESCO World Heritage Site shaped only by nature and time. In the middle of frozen Siberian forests and icy mountains, there is a real desert with moving sand dunes. It's called the Chara Sands, and it shouldn't exist here at all. This small desert lies in eastern Siberia, between the Kodar and Udakan mountain ranges inside a wide river basin. It stretches only about 6 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. Yet it holds the largest area of loose, shifting sand in the entire Siberian tundra. The sand dunes sit right next to pine forests, peat bogs, and icy rivers, with almost no transition between forest and desert. This unusual landscape began forming between 55,000 and 100,000 years ago, when melting glaciers created a large lake in this area. After the water drained away, strong winds slowly shaped the remaining sand into the rolling dunes that still move across the land today. This is not just a beautiful river flowing through the Altai Mountains. It is one of the main rivers that comes together to form the Ob River, one of the largest river systems in Russia. The Katun begins high in the Altai Mountains, where water slowly melts from the Katun glaciers near Mount Beluga. The river flows out of these glaciers at about 2,000 meters above sea level, starting its long journey downhill. From there, the Katun travels 688 kilometers across the Altai Republic and the Altai Krai. As it moves, the river changes depending on the land it passes through. Sometimes fast and powerful, sometimes slow and calm. In spring and summer, rain, melting snow, and glacier water make the river cloudy and grey. When autumn and winter arrive, groundwater feeds the river, and the water turns a clear turquoise colour. The Katun usually freezes in late November or early December, and breaks free again in early or mid-April. In its final stretch, the Katun meets the Bia River near the city of Bisk. Together, these two rivers form the Ob, carrying the Katun's water far beyond the mountains where it began. There is a railway so long that it crosses an entire continent from Europe to the Pacific Ocean. It stretches more than 9,000 kilometers, making it the longest railway line on Earth. This is the Trans-Siberian Railway. It runs from Moscow in the west all the way to Vladivostok in the east. With a length of over 9,289 kilometers, it remains the longest railway line in the world. The railway was built between 1891 and 1916 during the time of the Russian Empire. Even before it was fully completed, travellers were already riding the trains and recording their journeys. Since then, it has served both local people in their daily lives and travellers searching for one of the greatest journeys on Earth. Russia has a land that reaches closer to the United States than anywhere else. It's called Chukotka, and it's just 55 miles from Alaska. The region covers more than 737,700 square kilometres, which is about the size of France and England combined. Despite its huge size, only around 50,000 people live there, making it one of the emptiest regions in Russia. Chukotka is mostly mountainous. The northern part is an Arctic desert, the middle is tundra, and the southern areas are covered with Siberian Taiga forests. Even though tall trees are rare, more than 900 plant species grow here, along with 400 types of mosses and 400 kinds of lichens. Reindeer, musk oxen and snow sheep roam the land, while predators like wolves, lynx, wolverines and Arctic foxes hunt across the region. The coasts are home to walruses and whales including humpback, blue, bowhead, beluga and sperm whales swim in the nearby waters. During the short summer, around 220 species of birds migrate to Chukotka, including puffins and endangered birds like the spoon-billed sandpiper. The Kuril Islands are Earth's most rebellious chain of islands. Born from fire, battered by storms, and shaped by countless earthquakes. They stretch about 1,300 kilometers, from Hokkaido in Japan to the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. There are 56 islands, including smaller islets, and they separate the Sea of Okhotsk from the North Pacific Ocean. Most of the islands are volcanic peaks, and around 100 volcanoes rise from the ocean floor. About 40 of these volcanoes are still active, some erupting as recently as 2019. The islands have a harsh climate with long, cold, snowy winters and short, foggy summers. Russia has controlled the islands since 1945, but Japan still claims the 4 southernmost islands, including Iturup and Kunashir. Don't go anywhere, because after this wild chain of islands, the journey moves on to another place with an equally surprising story. Did you know Sakhalin Island was once considered worse than Siberia for prisoners? This enormous Russian island, stretching nearly 600 miles, holds a history that few outsiders have ever heard. Its north coast lies just 6.5 kilometers from mainland Russia, while the southern tip is only 40 kilometers from Japan. For centuries, Russia, Japan, and even China all claimed parts of this remote island. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Russia sent prisoners here, and life was harsher than anywhere else in Siberia. Some prisoners chose to stay after serving their sentences, building farms and small settlements alongside families who had followed them. Today, Sakhalin is Russia's largest island, carrying stories of hardship, survival, and human courage. Most people think the world's most stunning mountain roads are in Europe or South America. But what if I told you the most beautiful highway might be deep in Siberia? Welcome to the Chuya Highway, a 942-kilometer journey where nature seems almost unreal. This road starts in Novosibirsk and stretches all the way to the border with Mongolia. It passes through the Altai Republic, Altai Krai, and Novosibirsk Oblast, connecting Siberia with Central Asia. In the early 19th century, it played a key role in trade between the Russian Empire and Mongolia. The road received official national status on May 26, 1922, making it one of the oldest routes in the region. National Geographic included the Chuya Highway in its list of the 10 most beautiful roads in the world in 2014. Along the way, travellers see forests, rivers and meadows that feel untouched by time. Aktru Valley is a high mountain valley in the Altai Mountains of southern Siberia, Russia. The valley is named after the Aktru River, which begins from the melting glaciers around it. The surrounding mountains are very tall, with peaks higher than 3,500 meters above sea level. Aktru Valley is one of the main centers for mountain climbing in the Altai region, offering routes for both beginners and experienced climbers. Aktru Valley's stunning landscapes and untouched wilderness make it one of the most remarkable natural places in the Altai Mountains. Aktru Glacier is a group of glaciers located high in the North Chuysky Range of the Altai Mountains in southern Siberia, Russia. The Aktru Valley is surrounded by snow-capped peaks higher than 3,500 meters, with glaciers feeding the Aktru River. The glaciers sit at very high altitudes, beginning above 3,200 to 4,000 meters and descending toward the tree line. Scientists measure and monitor these glaciers closely because they provide important data about climate and environmental change. Studies show that the Aktru glaciers, like many others in the Altai, are shrinking due to rising temperatures in recent decades. Hidden deep in southern Siberia is a mountain pass so dangerous, it's often called one of the scariest roads on Earth. This is Katu-Yaryk Pass, a high mountain pass sitting 1,203 meters above sea level in Russia's Altai Republic. The road was built between 1987 and 1989 using only 3 bulldozers, carving a narrow path down the mountain for local people. At first glance, these look like fragile sculptures balancing on thin legs. But each one has survived centuries of wind, rain, and earthquakes. This is Akkurum, where strength hides behind beauty. Akkurum sits on the right bank of the Chulyshman River, about 15 kilometers from Lake Teletskoye. The name Akkurum means white rock slide, a clear hint at how these formations were created. Each stone mushroom formed when hard rock on top protected softer rock underneath from erosion. Over time, water and wind washed the softer rock away, leaving a tall pillar with a heavy stone cap. Some of these stone mushrooms reach up to 7 meters high, while others are less than 1 meter tall. The stone caps can be almost 2 meters wide, and the stone legs can be more than 1 meter thick. Geologists call these formations kurums, large rocks shaped by weathering over long periods of time. These kurums slowly move downhill, sliding little by little after rain and seasonal changes. Visitors often say the same thing when they see this place for the first time. This doesn't feel like Earth. And once you stand among these colours, it's hard to argue with them. Around 90 to 100 million years ago, this entire area was covered by an ancient sea. Even today, visitors can still find fossils, shells, and traces of sea life scattered across the ground. Because there is almost no vegetation here, the land feels open and empty, making the mountains look even more like the surface of Mars. Tobolsk is a historic town in Russia, built where the Tobol and Irtysh rivers meet, a location that once controlled the main river routes of Siberia. It was founded in 1587 and became the capital of Siberia, making it the second oldest Russian town east of the Ural Mountains. Before Tobolsk existed, this area was the site of a Tatar city. And fierce battles between Cossacks and local rulers decided who would control western Siberia. In the 1700s, it was the most important city in Siberia. Today, Tobolsk is known for its old Kremlin, churches and quiet streets, offering visitors a clear window into Siberia's long and complex history. The Serge Pillars are sacred wooden posts found near Shaman Rock on Olkhon Island in Lake Baikal, Russia. These pillars, called Serge, were once used by the local Buryat people as places to tie horses and welcome guests long ago. Over time, the meaning of the Serge changed, and people began tying colourful ribbons to them to send prayers and wishes to the spirits of the land. Each colour has its own meaning, like white for health and green for good fortune. There are about 13 of these pillars near the sacred Shaman Rock, one of Baikal's most famous spiritual places. Many visitors come here to tie a ribbon, make a wish, and feel the deep traditions of Siberian culture. The Serge stand tall against the blue sky and the vast waters of Lake Baikal, making them a striking sight for travellers. Because the pillars are linked to ancient beliefs and spirits, people treat this place with respect and quiet wonder. Seeing the Serge pillars helps visitors understand that Lake Baikal isn't just natural beauty, it is also a place of deep history and spiritual meaning. Chuya River is a beautiful mountain river in southern Siberia, Russia, flowing through the Altai region. It starts in high ridges and travels about 320 kilometres through wild valleys and green landscapes. The river water is often cold, usually between 7 and 13 degrees Celsius, even in summer. As it moves downstream, Chuya becomes fast and lively. At one special spot, you can see the muddy brown water of Chuya, meeting the clear turquoise water of another river, Katun, without mixing right away. The Chuya Valley has been home to people for many centuries. Today, the river valley is a popular place for adventure tourists who come for rafting, camping, and fishing. In winter, the river freezes and the landscape becomes quiet and snowy, while in warmer months, it bursts with life and colour. Many travellers say the Chuya River shows the wild and natural beauty of Siberia. Far from big cities and full of open skies and mountain views, the Yenisei River drains more water than any other river system flowing into the Arctic Ocean. Its tributaries include the Angara, which flows out of Lake Baikal, the world's largest freshwater lake by volume. The river's depth can reach up to 61 metres, and it covers a drainage area of over 2.5 million square kilometres. Today, the Yenisei remains a lifeline for local communities. Over 300 years ago, a wealthy Russian miner named Akinfi Demidov built a copper factory that gave birth to a city, Baikal. Back then, people called it Siberian Athens. because its streets were filled with beautiful buildings, theatres and mansions, like a small corner of St. Petersburg in the middle of Siberia. The city grew quickly because it was close to the rich Altai Mountains. Lake Akkem's icy waters are so pure and cold, life barely survives, yet its beauty is unmatched. The lake is located at 2,050 metres above sea level, at the foot of Belukha Mountain, the highest peak in the Altai. It is fed by the Akkem Glacier. Pevek is a small Arctic port town in far northeast Russia. Sitting above the Arctic Circle on Chanskaya Bay in the East Siberian Sea. It was founded in the 1930s as part of the Northern Sea Route, and it became an important place for shipping and mining in the Arctic. In winter, temperatures here can drop far below freezing, and the sun disappears for weeks during the polar night. Siberia has always been a land that refuses to fit into simple words. Each place here holds its own kind of power, sometimes cold and silent, sometimes warm with life. The frozen streets, the wide rivers, the endless forests, they all remind us that the world is still full of places untouched by time. And even in the harshest cold, people have built homes, stories, and traditions that last through generations. As we leave these snowy valleys and quiet lakes behind, their images stay with us. Strange, beautiful, and unforgettable. Because this is Siberia, where every horizon feels like the edge of another world.